Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Préfet de Région.
Thank you very much for that introduction, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, prefects,
D'abord, on est très heureux
officials. Firstly, we're very pleased with ministers to be at your side today. I heard the very proactive and optimistic speech delivered by the prefect, but I know there's a lot of commitment, hard work. Just over 5 years ago, there were a few of us that managed to land the nomination of Paris. We knew it'd be a lot of work, and that work began the next day, back in July 2017. Before that, for many of you. And so if I'm here today at your side, having spent a little time this afternoon in order to prepare the opening ceremony with Tony Estanguet and the artistic team, and having reviewed with ministers and the prefect, the police commissioner and the regions in Paris, we know that it's a group effort. We discussed that with the military governor of Paris a few days ago. So I really see all the work that's been achieved, but we're D minus 500. So everything that's done allows us to be on time, but nothing must be taken as a guarantee. And so my message today is one of thanks for all of you, but also really want to rally, because we know everything that needs to be done over the next 500 days before the opening of the Games and the Paris Olympics. We'll be receiving, the world will, of course, have a tremendous sporting event, and we need the maximum number of medals, Olympic and Paralympic. That's the preparation. The infrastructure must be ready to host the event, and also for great cultural events, the opening and closing ceremonies. There will be 4 of those. Several billion people around the world will see. And in the Paris region across France, we need to be ready to host the athletes, their staff, and host all those who will come and watch the Games and allow the smooth implementation of all this, and do this in a region, our region, that has great many challenges in the excellent security conditions and ensuring the acceptability of all those who live in the region. We've reviewed all the issues, but what are our challenges? To be on time and excellence in terms of delivery, organization, security, ticketing, logistics, transport, sports and artistic events, etc. Next, to
de la durabilité.
Be on time in terms of sustainability, standard-setting games, and it's the issue around logistics, transport, mobility, as we say today, and cutting emissions everywhere that's possible, and that standard setting is expected from us, and it has an impact on everything, and also in terms of security. And thank you for your efforts that began many months ago. I know for me it's key, because that's what will lead to an improved daily life for our fellow citizens. We've been able to cut back on crime and a good security set up during the events. And then there's all the legacy, everything that we need to prepare that will remain after the Games. And I know for you who serve the state daily is crucially important.
L'inclusivité.
Inclusivity, to allow maximum accessibility for the Games, improve the situation in our region. We have huge challenges in terms of accessibility for the disabled. We won't be perfect for these games, we know that. We know it's impossible in terms of our urban transport network, but there's a huge effort undertaken, started from day one, led by all the departments: housing, transport, accessibility, and legacy. Second thing is education, sports in this legacy. Everything you're preparing is to make our nation a sporting nation. Sports at school, the passport, sporting amenities, over and above those of
fameux équipements.
the games, the amenities, the equipment.
Et ça, c'est un héritage durable.
And that's going to be a lasting legacy that will lead
de faire vraiment de notre nation
to really make our nation a sporting nation over time through practice and infrastructure. And then it's all about transforming our lives through your commitment, through your work we're doing on the Seine and Marne regions is key and will change the lives. Making it possible to swim in the Seine and the Marne will be one of the legacies of this game, of these games. Of course, the list is long, but you'll have understood that it's a tremendous sporting event, but great human mobilization witnessed by the world. An ability to be ready in terms of the logistics and everything that goes with that. Ability to create outstanding events, the opening ceremony, moments of emotion, and to leave on the issues that I've mentioned, that of transport, to, over time, leave infrastructure, practices, changes that will outlive us and will be
Il y a un point sur lequel je voudrais insister, je l'évoquais rapidement,
the trace.
pour conclure mon propos.
In closing, I'd like to stress the need for us to continue to onboard everyone and the elected officials. I know that all the departments have rallied to the cause, and we have elected officials who are increasingly present. That must continue. They'll have key roles because of the facilities, welcoming the events, housing, there'll be fan zones, etc. Maybe some inconvenience, but we must onboard all the inhabitants of the region so that they rally behind us.
Alors l'héritage doit nous y aider.
Now the legacy will help us, what we'll be doing culturally from the educational standpoint, but during the Games, some of our fellow citizens will have see their daily lives somewhat hindered, maybe in terms of transportation, people who will be living close by who won't necessarily have access to the event. So we put in place a ticketing system, highly ambitious, with necessary solutions, but we need to be extremely innovative, very much in tune with those needs, so that throughout the Paris region, across the country, everyone feels involved in these games and Paralympics. That's an effort that we must deliver over the next 5 months. So it's a real public celebration, and our fellow citizens don't feel relegated. The fact that they are only a few hundred meters of major events and feel as far from it as someone who lives at the other end of the world. So that'll be our collective effort. I'd like to thank the ministers, the prefects, Tony, the organizing committee and his team. And thank all of you here, civilians and military personnel, all government departments, for the valuable work undertaken thus far. But here I'm rallying mobilization. The next 500 days are crucial. We'll have to manage the long-term perspective, get ready for an event where there may be crises, well, maybe cyber risk, ready for the worst so that it all goes perfectly. That's our job over the next 500 days. Don't give up on anything. Are there any lights that are red today? I asked. There are points that the Prime Minister will return to over the coming days where we have to exercise a bit of pressure here or there in terms of mobility. We had some bad news that wasn't necessarily expected. We'll put a bit of pressure. We've understood the two or three issues where things had to improve, but it's not because we're good today that we must ease up. The next 500 days, we must put maximum pressure to have games that are your games, because this army of the shadows that the prefect was referring to, well, your faces, and it's the pride that I'd like us all to be able to
Donc on va mettre le maximum d'énergie
feel in 500 days. We'll give our utmost to ensure that these are great games and Paralympic games, and France can present the finest image of itself. Our fellow citizens be proud, and you can be proud of the work undertaken. I'm counting on you. Thanks for the job, but don't ease up. We have a huge amount to do.
All right, a pep rally there for Paris's hosting of the 2024 Olympics, led by none other than the president himself, Emmanuel Macron. Listening in is James Vizina from our sports desk. And for all the upbeat notes, there are questions regarding these games, ticket pricing, transport, will it be ready? The venues seem okay, though.
The venues seem to be going all right. Actually, next week we should be able to visit a few of them in the north of Paris to get an idea of what's actually going on there. But as you say, there's questions going on. It's 500 days until the start of the Olympics, but the pressure clearly is there. To me, it kind of feels like, I mean, they know that there's a lot of things coming, kind of like that moment where you've got an essay to hand in, you've still got quite a bit of amount of time. 500 days sounds like quite a lot, but there's a lot of work to do, and you feel like, okay, for now we're all right, but things have got to go well in the coming days. Well, this is what's really happening right now. There's a lot of questions, as you said. Transport is probably the biggest one because we've been talking about that for a long time. The big issue is that Paris was going to modernise its whole metro system, its whole underground system to allow 10 million people, more or less, to be able to come and visit Paris during the weeks of the Games. A lot of those plans, most of the plans, are not going to happen in time. And that was one of the big selling points for Paris when they bid to get the Olympics to be able to host them next year in 2024. They said, well, we are going to rely, we're going to modernise that system for everyone and going to make it very accessible to everyone, because the whole point is that people are going to be able to travel in between different venues, not have to take cars. Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, wants people to rely on public transport rather than their own private cars, etc. And that's not going down to plan for the moment. So that's one of the big worries right now. Also, of course, with the people who are going to be coming in, how are they going to be able to come into Paris? Because one of those lines was going to be taking people, adding to the existing networks coming in from the airports into Paris. And when you look at the state of, I think we've all seen of transports within Paris over the last few months, it's very crowded, especially during peak hours. It's mad. And you've got to wonder how adding 10 million people to that time frame is going to pan out for Paris. So that's, I think, one of the big concerns in terms of, because if people can't get around, if they've imagine they've bought their tickets and they're not going to be able to get to those venues in time, that's going to be a complete failure for Paris, for France. And as Emmanuel Macron says there, it's time where Paris wants to be able to shine. This is their chance to do it. They've got to get everything right for them. They can't afford any slip-ups. Yeah,
and the fiasco that was the Champions League final, serving a bit as a wake-up call. James Vizina, we'll be checking in with you for more in our sports segment that's coming up in some 20 minutes' time.